Let me go to Senator Santorum. Now he has his moment in the controversial sun, if you will, because now that he's gone up and been surging in the polls as much as he has, a couple of issues have come up. Some have suggested, although I think taken totally out of context, the remarks about theology and questioning the president's, quote, Christianity. That's not what he's talking about. And we had him on the program last night explaining that. Also a speech that he gave to Ave Maria College in Naples, Florida, in which he talked about Satan has his sights on the United States of America, and it seems like there are some that are trying to create a caricature, a picture of him as being on the fringe. I believe there's good and evil. I believe in the Lord's Prayer. You look at fascism, Nazism in Pan, the killing fields, 9/11. I would argue that's evil in our lifetime, is it not? Or evil in our time in the last century as well.
Yeah, but Sean, that's foreign to so many in that leftist media that kind of runs the show here, that narrative that they create. They will attack any conservative who boldly proclaims their faith and talks about there is good in the world and there is evil in the world. And that's what Rick Santorum was talking about. And this was a speech that he gave back in 2008 where he named evil as Satan. And for these lamestream media characters to get all wee-weed up about that, first you have to ask yourself, have they ever attended a Sunday school class even? Have they never heard this terminology before? And that's why they just got so, just whacked out about this speech. Yeah. They did the same thing to me. I gave a speech, well, Sean, I gave a speech back in 2008 where I asked college and high school students if they would pray for our troops and pray for our efforts overseas in war zones. And they ran that tape over and over again in the vice presidential race, trying to make me sound like a wacko, talking about good and evil in our world.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting when in the last century alone, over 100 million human souls killed in the name of evil. I mean, I think it's a pretty compelling case. All right, how would you, I have two last questions, I'm going to tie it into one. How would you advise Senator Santorum to deal with that now that it's sort of his moment to take the heat? And the last question, just to finish on Governor Romney, how could he close the circle with conservatives like yourself, if he can, and say something, do things that would convince you or take away the doubt you might have that you expressed?
Yeah. Well, first with Rick Santorum, we would be disappointed in him if he backed off and all of a sudden changed his stripes and decided he didn't want to talk about good and evil in the world and America's Judeo-Christian foundation. So he needs to stand strong on that. And it needs to be surrogates helping the guy out at this point. People who have that Judeo-Christian belief in right priorities in our country, we need to speak up for someone like Rick Santorum, who has been bold about his faith, and encourage him not to back down. And we call the mainstream media, the lamestream media, out on their hypocrisy, because it's okay for Barack Obama to say just recently invoke the book of Luke in the New Testament and think that the theology that he would adopt by reading the book of Luke results in him being able to say we need to increase taxes on hardworking Americans. That's okay, but Rick Santorum talking about good and evil isn't okay. Mainstream media, they make me sick. They're hypocrites, and we need to call them out on that.